What if a system of forced labor never ended in America? What if the constitutional reform designed to abolish it was never approved? What if, in the year 2025, millions of people still lived under legally enforced hereditary servitude within the United States? It sounds unreal. It sounds like a nightmare. But today, we explore one of the darkest alternate timelines imaginable, a world where America allows an old, unjust institution to continue for more than 250 years. This isn't just a historical exercise. It's a warning about what happens when a society refuses to confront its deepest wrongs. Welcome to an America that never ended its system of human bondage. In our timeline, forced labor was formally abolished in 1865 through a landmark constitutional amendment. After a devastating national conflict that took the lives of more than 600,000 Americans, the federal government brought this institution to an end. It was a major step toward human rights, one that required enormous sacrifice. But what if that turning point never came? What if the conflict ended differently? What if the breakaway states succeeded? Or what if the government in the North lacked the determination to push for complete reform? What if economic interests and political pressures kept an unjust labor system alive, decade after decade, generation after generation? Today, we explore this unsettling alternate reality. How could this institution have survived? What would modern America look like under such conditions? And what does this teach us about morality, justice, and national responsibility? Imagine a map of the United States in 2025, but not the one we know. In much of the Deep South, from Texas to Virginia, the old system still exists. Large agricultural estates operate with an unfree workforce. Markets for labor contracts are still active. Families remain separated by a system designed to control their status. This isn't the distant past. This is a modern nation with smartphones, satellites, and global technology, but also with a legalized framework that denies personal autonomy to millions of people. The contrast is shocking. In this alternate timeline, it's considered normal. The rest of the world looks on with disbelief. But America, powerful, wealthy, and isolated, refuses to change. It becomes the richest nation ever to maintain this system with no plan to abandon it. How could this institution survive for more than 2.5 centuries? Let's trace 3 possible paths through this nightmare timeline. Scenario 1. The breakaway states win the national conflict of the 1860s. In this version, their forces win decisively at Gettysburg in 1863. They advance toward Washington, and the federal government is forced to negotiate. The nation splits into 2. The newly independent Southern Republic continues its labor system unchanged. Freed from federal pressure, the Southern nation expands the system rather than dismantling it. It spreads the model to nearby territories and becomes a major economic power by 1900, fully dependent on this workforce. Scenario 2. The North wins the conflict but compromises. The president is assassinated before the war concludes. His successor, lacking strong moral conviction, negotiates a deal with the South. The Union stays intact, but the old labor system remains legal in certain states. The constitutional amendment is never introduced. Over decades, political forces protect this system. Southern lawmakers dominate national politics. They block all attempts at reform. Northern states industrialize while Southern states remain agricultural and dependent on unfree labor. The country becomes 2 nations in one, free and restricted. The divide never closes. Scenario 3. Plans for gradual reform fail. Instead of a decisive change, Southern states promise to phase out the system over 50 years. But they never follow through. Economic interests remain too powerful. Political leaders avoid confrontation. And the system continues simply through inertia and profit. Any of these paths leads to the same outcome. The institution survives into the 20th century, into the 21st. And by 2025, millions of Black Americans remain trapped in a status imposed on them generations ago. Let's examine what this alternate America looks like politically. Whether united or divided, it operates under a legalized framework of hereditary servitude. How does such a system function in the modern world? First, the Constitution never changes. The amendment that should have ended the system doesn't exist. Forced labor remains legal under both federal and state law. The Supreme Court repeatedly upholds it, citing property rights and states' rights. A document intended to guarantee liberty instead becomes a shield for injustice. Political power is concentrated among pro-system lawmakers. Southern states hold enormous influence. They control the Senate. They block any attempt at reform. Any threat to the system is eliminated long before it gains momentum. Northern states, morally opposed but economically entangled, remain silent. They profit from cheap agricultural goods produced through unfree labor. Hypocrisy dominates national politics. The North claims to oppose the system but benefits from it every day. Presidential elections become battles over the future of the forced labor system. Candidates who support it win repeatedly. Those who oppose it are pushed aside, silenced, or intimidated. Political unrest becomes common. Reform advocates are arrested, threatened, or disappear under suspicious circumstances. The government protects the interests of those who control the labor system, not basic human dignity. International relations deteriorate. By the mid-20th century, every major nation on Earth has already ended similar systems. Britain ended it in 1833, France in 1848. Even Brazil, the last major country to maintain such a system, abolished it in 1888. But America? In this alternate timeline, America stands alone. The United Nations condemns the country. Some members call for economic sanctions, but global powers hesitate. America is too influential, too wealthy. Nations continue trading with it despite their objections. In the end, global commerce overshadows global morality. Now let's talk about the economy. The forced labor system shapes every part of American economic life. Not just historically, but for centuries. In the South, large agricultural estates dominate. Cotton, tobacco, sugar, and rice are produced by millions of people trapped in hereditary servitude. Estate owners become unimaginably wealthy. They live comfortably, while those bound to this system live in poverty and constant control. But here's the fundamental issue. An economy built on unfree labor does not innovate. The South remains agricultural and technologically stagnant. While the rest of the world develops machinery, industry, and automation, the South refuses to modernize. Why invest in machines when labor is cheap? Why develop new technology when profit requires no change? By the 20th century, the divide between North and South is enormous. The North has factories, skyscrapers, and advanced industry. The South has fields and rigid control. The economic divide mirrors the moral divide. But the North is not innocent. Northern factories process Southern crops. Northern banks fund Southern estates. Northern consumers buy goods produced through a system of enforced labor. The entire American economy depends on it. No region can claim clean hands. Globally, America becomes an outcast. Foreign companies refuse to invest. Tourism collapses. International brands withdraw in protest. But the domestic market is so large that America survives anyway, isolated, yet self-sufficient. Let's move to the most painful dimension. What is daily life like for people trapped in this system in 2025? Imagine being born under legal restrictions that define your status from birth. Your parents lived under the same system, your grandparents too. Generations before you never experienced freedom. Your family line has been bound to the same condition for over 2.5 centuries. You have no political rights. You cannot vote. You cannot own property. You cannot legally marry. You cannot receive an education because learning is tightly restricted. You work from dawn to dusk. Any attempt to resist results in punishment. Your children can be taken away and reassigned without your consent. This is your daily reality, and there is no legal escape. The harshness of the system is overwhelming. Physical punishment is common. Public intimidation is used as a warning to others. People are treated as assets, not human beings. The legal structure protects those who control the system, not those trapped within it. Resistance exists. Uprisings occur throughout history. Most are crushed with overwhelming force. Leaders of these movements face severe consequences, often publicly, to discourage others. The system is engineered to break hope and impose silence. And yet, hope persists. Communities preserve their culture, music, and faith. They pass down stories of a better future. They dream of a day when they will be free. But in this timeline, that day never arrives. Meanwhile, free Black Americans in the North face constant danger. They are treated as second-class citizens at best. Some states pass laws forcing them out. They face discrimination, restrictions, targeted violence, and the constant fear of being seized and forced into servitude because in this timeline, legality offers little protection. For white Americans, life becomes morally corrupted. In the South, children grow up believing the system is normal. They are taught that certain groups are inherently inferior and meant to serve. In the North, citizens live in denial, pretending that the horrors in the South are exaggerated or irrelevant. Both sides carry responsibility. Both sides are complicit. Now consider the global consequences. An America that never ends its forced labor system reshapes world history. First, the nation loses all moral credibility. In our timeline, the United States, despite its own failures, became a global symbol of freedom and democracy. But in this alternate timeline, it becomes a symbol of systemic oppression.